Minyan Kametu and some Mahama.
Yeah.
I don't know if the NDC has seen that or they've managed to like whip up support, but the Mahama brand is not as strong as it was in 2012.
For me,
The
I
Trump
felt
brand,
it was a mistake to bring him back. Anyway, next to, I don't know whether this moment would make you, if I ask you whether you could go back to you said if I ask you whether you could go back to KDS, yeah, you go back again. KNUST, SRC, let's come back to it. If I ask you to go back to the protest moment, would you go back to it?
Oh no, I won't. I won't go back to it. No,
there were a lot of stories outside of that period as to what was going on within
there are
the
always so
political.
many stories going on, like
So many.
outside administrations, right? Like everybody's saying something.
Yeah. Like, how did you feel? Because you were in second year at the time.
I had just started third year, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like weeks into my
Politically,
third year.
yeah, true.
Mhm.
Politically, you were also, like you said, mainly learning on the job and finding out a lot about KNUST politics because you entered as an exploratory journey, but you realized that things became real so fast. One of the realities was confronting a protest crisis that I'm not sure presidents come across a lot
Mhm.
in the NUST administration. If I should ask you what your assessment of what happened was or is, how would you assess it? Do you think it was a necessary thing that had to happen? Do you think there were different ways to get that same outcome without having to end up protesting?
I think there's something that the former President Rawlings said,
Yeah,
and I think he said something like, if the moment doesn't call for, he used the word coup, but that's like an
yeah,
extreme thing in this situation. Yeah,
yeah,
it won't happen, right? So it's the same. I can borrow some of the thinking around what he said, that
yeah,
if it was with the moment, I don't
yeah,
think it would have happened outside of that moment, only
yeah,
because there were things that had led to the demonstration, like the changing of the halls. Not forget, there had been prior demonstrations during the holidays,
yeah,
when the naming of the halls, the changing
yeah,
of the halls had occurred, like allowing them to bring females in there. And so when we came back on campus that semester, if you remember, there were police FPU vehicles stationed in almost every corner.
yeah, yeah,
Like you pass Conti and you see one big police like those FPU, like anti-demonstration
yeah,
tanks parked there.
yeah,
There was one in Katanga, there was one in, I
yeah,
think, somewhere else. And there was this sort of like tension between students and authorities on campus, to the
yeah,
extent that all those videos you saw, that car hitting people
yeah,
in the head, the
yeah,
guys, falling from the, and I think there was a guy who fell from the back of a car. This happened off
yeah,
campus, like somewhere
yeah.
unrelated, and then the Katanga boys held a vigil for him on campus.
Okay.
And I think during the vigil, Adapa stormed the vigil because I think, as part of measures to help contain
They
the change of
didn't
the
want
halls,
to
they
go
didn't want
around.
people to come together to do things.
Yeah,
So they took them. I think the whole thing that happens, like sticks fly here and there, and then I think one person had a cut in the, or
yeah,
an opening in the head with a
yeah.
stick.
There were
And
pictures flying around on
yeah,
social
and then
media.
videos started going around and all of that.
Yeah,
To be fair, when those things were happening, I didn't think it would result in what we saw.
yeah,
That's only because we had been engaging, like, the dean of students and the VC prior to that
yeah.
happening. We knew, like, this is how things should be and what the student sentiments were and all of that.
Okay,
So I went to see my grandma. We are from Ashanti region, so my grandma lives around the Kumasi. So
okay.
once or twice in a semester I'll go and see her. So I went to see her, and then I saw on Kelvin's status Action Day, and I was like, what's going on here? That's why I was saying Action Day. so so I called him. I said, "What's up?" He
Yeah,
said, "Where are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm at my grandma's." He's like, "Can you come to campus?" I said, "What's happening?" He said, "I need you on campus immediately." I was like, "Okay." So I left, and then I came back to campus.
yeah,
And when I went there, they said, "Oh, it looks like there are, people want to go and demonstrate against
Yeah.
XYZ. And I think the first thing I asked them was, is there a plan for this? Like, what's the plan that
Yeah.
you think you have? And so I told Kelvin that, are you sure this is a legitimate thing for you to do? Because don't forget, it's a public university, it's a public campus. We are all subject to the laws of Ghana. If you go and do something and they come and catch you today, like, my education is over. So
Yeah.
I think he called for a meeting with all class reps. And
Yeah.
then, as a way of trying to see whether or not student leaders agreed with a demonstration of, because you have to build
Yeah.
a consensus. And when we went there, we got, what's it called? We got them. I think it was in medical school. They have one of their
Yeah.
theaters, their auditoriums, and then we had it there. And then somebody took off their shirt and was ranting, and it was captured on video. And I
Yeah.
think the power of social media in these things these days, and I think it was all over, like, people's status and all of that evening, and people started, and then, usual Katanga Kunti, these
Yeah.
things, like, people started marching and doing the morale and all of that. So I think immediately Kelvin decided to then approach authorities and say, guys, this
Getting
potentially could
serious.
be escalating to it gets serious than we think it would be.
Yeah.
So are we able to come together? So me as a chief of staff, all I was doing at that time was trying to understand whether or not, one, if this was going to happen, try to measure the
Yeah.
situation and see how best we could go around a situation like this.
Yeah.
So when the SRC issued a letter that tomorrow there's demonstration, at that point there had been a few meetings and there was a general sense that if this goes on, yes, it's the people
Yeah.
are going to come out, and honestly, today I still don't know why, but unfortunately, the dean of student decided to send a counter message, and
Yeah.
and then I don't know who. Well, not a, it came from the dean of student's office, so let me just correct that.
Yeah.
It's not the. I don't think it was
The
the dean
actual KNUST
himself.
students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still don't know who it was, but it came from the office, and I think that even made things worse because then the SRS also issued a counter letter to the
Yeah.
dean's message and thing, and then things got degenerated and the demonstration happened. When I went to bed the night before, I said, I don't know what will happen here, God, tomorrow, but please,
Yeah.
everything is in your hands. So, like, not to say God is a God of distraction, but the morning came and then, the demonstration happened. It happened really
Yeah.
fast as well. Like, I was really shocked. Like, within 2 hours or
Yeah.
so, a lot of things had been dismantled and we had seen military vehicles moving onto campus. I
Yeah.
hadn't seen some before in my life. Like, we had
Oh.
seen I had seen military vehicles before in Tamale because my grandma lived in Tamale, so we used to
Okay.
visit. And I think there was one of the tribal conflicts that degenerated, so there was a lot of
Yeah.
heavy military presence. But from that time, I hadn't seen anything of that nature again. So we came back, and then I remember the Ashanti regional minister and all these big men you see on TV started coming on
Yeah.
campus, and then they were like, they need to put a curfew here. They just had a RecSec meeting, and we need to close down the school, and everybody should go home by tomorrow. And so what I did was I quickly called everybody into a meeting, and I said, guys, we can't have everybody talking about this issue. So can we just decide who to engage the public? So I think we decided on the president, the vice, the PRO, some other people who were only the ones supposed to talk to the public, and then anybody else. And we sort of tried to die down. We saw the school putting out messages on the internet about things that had happened, and
Yeah.
quickly a Twitter war room was assembled, and we had some of the alumni tweeting in, calling into radio station. In fact, if you ask me, will I do that again? No, because like you said before, we're reacting on the spot of them. I have never seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was how old was I? I think I was like 20 years or so back then, or 21. I'm only here to school. I'm not here to
Yeah.
do these things. I only became a chief of staff because I wanted to explore. Now I'm
Yeah.
presented with this situation. How do you go about it, right? So,
Typical TV series.
you know, so I was like, this is not real. Like, is this happening?
Yeah.
So quickly so I couldn't, for the first 36 hours, I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep. I had never gone that long without sleeping. Um, and we were called into a regional meeting with the minister of like Charlie was a really high party. Like for the first time, I
Yeah.
started understanding how things were really run in
On
countries like
yeah.
authority, public
Yeah.
like communication, like how those things were done. I was like, okay, cool. So it gave me a very broad exposure because it was the only period in my life where I was being called into meeting with ministers that I would never have gotten an opportunity to meet, because
yeah,
they'll call you and then you have to go have a meeting. Because I was mostly the one following Kelvin around. I don't even know
yeah,
why that felt to me, but I became the guy walking around with Kelvin to especially after the demonstration.
yeah,
Um, some of the meetings that happened, most of them I was there, and then after some of those meetings, we were told Otumfuo was going to come back and the issues would be resolved amicably and all of that.
yeah,
There, like you said, you hear so many things. This person has
yeah,
interest, political interest, but I did never concern myself with any of those interests. I think for me, my interest was, can we come back to school and can
yeah,
we continue to like I wasn't a politician. I wasn't
yeah, yeah,
affiliated to party politics. I was just the
yeah,
guy who wanted to be chief of staff, and it's like you're not
yeah,
thrown into the middle of all of this, and you have to figure out what to do on the situation. But I'm happy things died down. I'm happy we're able to come back. I'm happy we're able to run the end of the administration.
yeah.
In fact, my relationship with O'Brien still became even better after the demonstration. You
Wow.
notice that he helped us a lot for PAUDC.
Yeah,
We could go to his office at any time in any of debates or anything to ask. We
yeah,
visited him several times, even after the tournament, to thank him specially. He really came through. And one thing he said to me was he likened his administration to a lotus flower. So apparently, the
yeah.
lotus flower grows in a very dirty side of of
Yes,
a forest.
yeah,
Yeah, and then it sprouts into one of the wisdom. So one of our last visits to him after the administration was coming to an end, I gave him a portrait of a lotus flower.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so I think it was a good experience. Do I want to relive it? The answer is no. I don't think I want to relive it because I think I wasn't well equipped to run it. I wasn't. I didn't even understand to an extent most of the things that was happening. I found
yeah.
myself in a moment and I tried to be as helpful as I could to my president and to the school at that point. Yeah,
'Cause to be fair, if you had people describe you within that period, I didn't know you personally as well. Again, like within
yeah.
that period, but if you had people describing SAR, chief of staff, SAR's administration, how powerful you guys were, how much politics you guys were playing, like how much you guys were now at prime position to determine the political image of various political parties, depending on how these issues are resolved. And so you were being called into high profile political interest meetings, bro.
Till
Hey,
today, I don't know which meetings you're talking about because no, you see, some of these rumors were so wild that on UTV, Kelvin was being
yeah,
accused of having taken an amount of money to sell
yeah,
out the interest of students. And I
yeah,
sometimes, then again, I don't think this meeting ever happened because any meeting that happened with me present, that no such thing came up, right?
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know whether these things happen or not, but the stories were actually out there. Like people were saying a lot of things.
And that's the thing. This was with mainstream media coverage as well. So
Yeah.
it's like the rumors were heavy-handed. it's and it's
But
like
that's
the
when
media always wants to
yeah,
put a twist or
honestly,
a
I
perspective.
learned a lot from that situation. I learned so much from that
Yeah,
situation. And I think if you ask me today, do I want to come into mainstream politics? Probably that's the moment why I might say, let me
no,
take my time. Yeah,
yeah,
let me relax more because um like I said, to be fair, at the time I didn't understand a lot of the things I understand today. It took me years to reflect on them. Like, okay, this is why I saw this happen. This is why this person might have said this. It
yeah.
didn't. Listen, I was 20 years old.
Well,
Like,
yeah, it wasn't clear in real
it
time.
wasn't clear in my mind. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know what things were playing up and about. And and to an extent, we suffered so much when we came back because Sesai's election was as a result of
Yeah,
those things. People gave us
yeah,
powers we didn't have. Um,
yeah.
I was made to be seen as a very powerful person, and I wasn't that powerful, honestly. Most people don't know this, but leading up to the last 2 months of the administration, I wasn't talking to
Yeah.
Kelvin, sir.
Hey,
Yeah, the administration internally suffered some
bro.
cracks, and as a
Oh,
result of difference in opinion on how things were being run. So people will say that, oh, it was an administrative calculation to put this person on. It wasn't. It was just a random guy
yeah.
helping out their friend because the
Mm,
administration was not as united as you might have
brutality.
seen it on the outside. They were
Yeah,
like I'm saying, like, about 2 months to the end of the day, I wasn't talking to Kelvin. Kelvin and I patched up our relationship during COVID.
Really?
Like that's how serious it got. Yeah. So it's there are a lot of rumors that go around with these things, and I think in
Interesting.
politics, people don't take their time to verify. They just
Um,
they just say things out there like that. But yeah,
wow.
it wasn't always. And then sometimes people will not believe you. Like the situation with justice, for instance.
Yeah.
No matter what I said, they said no, it was agenda. And I was like, but the guy is my friend. He was literally in my room yesterday. We were eating together. I can't do this to you. Like, yeah, that's what you would say. You are so political. I'm like, I'm not. I'm actually saying
Yeah,
the truth.
exactly. See, the thing with political interest is the more you try to prove that you had nothing against the person, the more you fed into the image around very big wicked politicians that yeah they'll be in your room drinking tea with you,
But
and
then
then the
had the
next day
mafia for back.
they are mafying you. So it's like those explanations never help. Michael Ampa will tell you, see, stop explaining. Your friends don't need it. Your enemies won't believe you, and it won't make a difference to a random person. So yeah, but I think that's interesting, really. It's like for me, I was a student. I think in 2018. Yeah, I was in
You were in
first year.
second year.
Was
Oh,
first year
you're first year.
starting
Yeah, yeah,
just
first year.
just
No, you're
going
in
into
first year.
second year.
No, no, no. You're not in first year.
Just going into second year, really.
Yeah.
Or just gotten into second year, and it was like that day I was at my hostel. There was no class, I think, because the demonstrations was happening. Then I don't know, something just said, oh, me sorry, so I should get up and go and learn. So I was going to learn, and that's when I heard there's military on campus. People were just
Mm.
running back, said, go here. I just turned around, went into my room, locked the door, and never came out till the day ended. But just to listen to you describe it also from where you sat and how events unfolded, it's just like these things would, I don't think, if there was a way to bring everyone's experience of it into one view
Mm.
where everyone could watch it like a single movie, I think that would probably be the most wonderful experience to understand how some of these things work.
No, but it was interesting, right? Because there are times where, and during that period, I became very anxious,
Yeah,
very suspicious of people. No, because you were here even, and we need to applaud our leaders in times of crisis,
yeah,
because you just don't know who. Maybe at a higher level, there's channels of information and there are
yeah, yeah,
filters, so they are able to act with. But at our level, there's no filter,
yeah,
and you don't know who is telling you the right thing. You don't know whether the person speaking to you is speaking to you because the action they want you to take is the right action or not. Like in the
yeah.
middle of that, you were getting calls that the parliamentarians are saying they are going to impeach Kelvin when he comes back from Accra. And you're like, we literally just left Accra. Now we have to think
Yeah,
on our way back. What are we going to tell the parliamentarians when we go? Like they say they
yeah.
want to impeach you. Like my brain was running faster than it had ever run in my whole life. And the funny thing is somebody will see you on TV or hear your voice on radio, and then they will call your mom and say, "Hey, Obano, what's the radio?" I'm like, "Do you know what I was going through?" It wasn't fun.
Ah, for Ghanaian community, every publicity is good thing.
No, it wasn't fun. It
We
wasn't fun
reach.
at all. Because
Yeah,
you see, and I think that, like what you said, we blow the students' leadership out of proportion.
yeah,
You are a citizen. You are not the president of the country. You are not a minister. You are not in political authority. You are a student in
yeah,
KNUST.
yeah,
You are just supposed to understand the part you play in that process, and you'll be at peace with yourself. You are not trying to bring down an administration. Well, in fact, we made it clear that we're not going after anybody's job. That it
yeah,
was an expression of things that we wanted, and we wrote a lot of things that we said we wanted to see happening, and all of that. The media engagements were something I didn't see coming.
yeah,
But it was interesting to sometimes go behind the scenes when the interviews are happening and seeing how media coverage is even done in this country and all. So it was a very,
yeah,
very, very it was a good experience. Do I want to relive it? The answer is no. But was it good in shaping my thoughts
who you
and
are.
making me like
Yeah,
more mature as a person? I'll say yes. It really did. Yeah.
awesome. Let's go to protest culture in Ghana. Like right now, they said Nanadu is king Nebuchadnezzar. This recently he unveiled a statue and they said there's Osajefo. and there's
What
Ojijefo.
did you for?
Yes. And then
Yeah.
there's Statue of Freedom. And then this one is Statue of Limitation.
Hey,
Just
I haven't heard that
limits,
one, but yeah, that's
just limits you for nothing. But one of the defining things about this current presidency in Ghana is that people have a very critical view of how they've handled protests. From spraying people with water cannons and tanks
mm,
and I said me to fix the country movement, how they deal with Oliver, and I think recently as well about the Galamsey protest and
mm-hmm,
some people in prison for long periods. Like with that experience, I'm not sure if there's any connection between the two experiences anyway, between like experiencing protest on KNUST campus and how you see protest arranged now. But do you think the responses from the state to protest is valid and justified? And I'm asking this because let's say from the KNUST protest experience, you were obviously at a place that most students were not when it
mm,
comes to thinking about how best to respond. And maybe you had a lot more information about the rationale that went in behind, for instance, bringing the military, declaring it a security zone, shutting the school down, and saying everyone should go home. And I'm sure if they did that in a national protest today, everybody would say it's abuse of rights. Yeah, right. So, like, do you think those thinkings are probably some of the things that are reflecting in how the state deals with national protest and whether they are valid thinking rights and thinking patterns as well?
yeah. I think you need to look at it from two angles. One person has been voted into office and entrusted the power to protect all citizens against oppression, both from within and foreign.
Yeah.
And one person who has given the power to that person up there says, I don't
Yeah.
agree with the things you are doing and I want to voice out my opinion on it.
Yeah.
I think one crucial thing that people don't look at is they don't question themselves as to why are we protesting, and in
Okay.
fact what is the interest of those organizing this protest.
Yeah.
Because let's be, and it might sound like I am doing the government's bidding, but the truth is, if I'm a president of a country and I see that there are elements within a country who could potentially disrupt the stability of the country and
Yeah.
sort of make it like hinge on the issues of galamsey and all of those things, do I reserve the right to use every means available to me to question those people? The answer is I might do that if I'm a president for the security and stability of the country. But
Okay.
the other flip, like the other side when you flip the coin is,
Yeah.
do the citizens also then appreciate your decision making from that angle? Do they
Yeah.
think you are being ruthless, or they think you are doing what is right for your country? And
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to sometimes try and reason into our citizens, because as it stands today, yes, Galamsey's evidence of Galamsey's destruction to water bodies is glaring, it's clear, it's evident. It's not
Yeah.
false, it's not AI generated images, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what can we do about it to solve it? Should I go
Yeah.
and protest every single day in order to get a solution? That is one of the avenues I can use. If
Yeah.
I'm using that avenue and it's not working, what can I do? In fact, you have very limited options in the constitution either way. You either
Yeah.
present amendments or things through your locally elected representatives to the government, or you go out there
Yeah.
and you protest. When you want to protest, because
Yeah.
don't forget that a protest is always also about your thoughts versus how it inconveniences the rest of the society. Not everybody in KNUST on that day agreed with the student body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
every citizen at every point in time will agree that we need to fight on the same issues. In fact, if you ask anybody what are the five things the government should fix, somebody will say road, somebody will say education, somebody will say healthcare, somebody will even
Yeah.
put jobs as number one, somebody will put maybe, I don't know, food security as number one. That
Yeah.
tells you that we can never all agree to fight. And as a society, we need to become comfortable with accepting the fact that not everybody is going to agree with you when you want them to protest on certain issues. And when they
Yeah.
go and protest on those issues, all you're supposed to do is to help and understand why they are protesting. So that when it comes to your turn, you are protesting about food insecurity, you won't get people telling you, go and sit down, you are doing a bidding of an opposition member or something. So we need
Yeah.
to look at it from those angles. Yes, there could be a president with more access to information as to why he's acting the way he's acting. And a
Yeah.
citizenry who is also demanding a response. I think we need to find a way where the government can meet people halfway by
Yeah.
also not making themselves look like you can't protest under our regime. Like, okay, this is what you are saying. We hear you. We are going to try and do something about it. Try to
Yeah.
help calm people in that respect. Because other than that, protest and social media and the way things are being blown out of proportion these days, you realize that the actual, and that's why I like when the media houses were doing these things where in the middle of the protest they'll ask somebody, what are you protesting for? And then some people don't know why they are there. They are there just because they said they are
Like
protesting to
some
the
of the
instance.
answers could hear.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And, you know,
So
we suffer from, just one last bit on, we suffer from
yeah.
a big identity crisis as black people. Well, let me say as Ghanaians, right? So
Yeah.
if you ask somebody who what their identity is, they don't know what their identity is. And because they don't know what their identity is, they fall for everything that gives them like a sense to feel secure about themselves or
Yeah.
to to get happiness or to get recognition. Let me put it that way. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, somebody's on social media protesting and typing because at the end of the day, somebody will say, "Hey, this guy is trending home.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He's getting security." But that's because sometimes we've not forged the strong identities as Ghanaians. Like, if I ask people who a Ghanaian is, we don't know who a Ghanaian is today. Forget
Yeah.
the constitutional definition of a Ghanaian, but what makes us Ghanaian? You know, what, because that's
Yeah.
the difference between why a protest culture in Ghana will be successful or not.
Yeah.
Because protest culture in France is very successful. In
Yeah.
other countries are very successful, but why is that in our country is met with some skepticism because
Yeah.
fundamentally we don't even get to interrogate who we are, what we want, how we want to
Yeah.
move. Everything is vibes. So if it keeps on being vibes, vibes, vibes like that, then at the end of the day, you're not going to get people to come together and fight for common purpose. The only time we came together and fight for common purpose was under Nkrumah to
Yeah.
get independence from, and even that one wasn't even a common unified purpose because history will tell you there were the guys who thought Nkrumah's way was not even the right way. So
Yeah.
who are we? How do we define our society? If we begin to understand those things, some of the things that we see during protests, like people are playing football in the middle of the road, people are blocking, like you see some of these things. But anyway, what
Playing
kind of
football.
so they say that you are sitting somewhere, you have it or you have a job, that's why you are talking
Yeah.
plenty. So sometimes you just have to keep quiet and just be there.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a conflicting take as well because sometimes I know that obviously governments are privy to information and intelligence that the average
Mm,
person on the street doesn't have. So it's a lot more difficult to judge the validity of government actions. And it's so difficult also because you can't ask government to disclose some of these things. They say it's because of national security. Oh, okay. Yeah, what is national security?
mhm,
And at this point, that excuse is being seen as just a political word to bully people from doing what the government doesn't want them to do, right? And so
yeah.
it it just more like, yeah, it's a system. It's like one of the difficult things within a democratic system, where there are some instances where the government recognizing your rights struggles to
Mhm,
respect it because they have to prioritize self-preservation and some secrecy that comes with running the administration over being transparent. And we ask for transparency as if we can always get it in in absolution, but the reality is you can't, right? And if governments don't deploy it, it becomes difficult. But just to put it out there that sometimes the governments themselves don't help themselves. Some of the responses and the reactions that they will give, it just justifies all the conspiracy that's out there about just wanting to bully some people, just wanting to be
mhm.
repressive. So um just a few more, or let's say one last bit of conversation so we wrap it up, is the elections. You in my DM predicted that Trump will win.
Oh
And I
yeah.
wanted to ask you, why did you think that? Because I'm not sure majority of people thought Trump will win.
Yeah, I think people always need to look at things from, let's say, read in between the lines or look at what is happening around the world to try to understand where the world is swinging towards. So this year is the biggest year for democracy in terms of elections. I
Yeah.
think over 64% of the world is voting this year. And you look at who has won those elections across board in um, in certain countries, or I think even in most countries, that I'm not too sure about is being opposition parties coming back to
yeah,
power, and they are coming back to power not even in like simple ways, like landslides. So like
yeah,
Trump is coming in with or just came in with the popular vote, which hasn't happened, I think, since Obama all the way down.
yeah,
So now, so I think the last person might have been the last Republican might have who won the popular vote might probably be George Bush Senior. I don't, yeah, but from Clinton downwards, they've not had a popular vote. You've seen the Labour Party come in here and then disrupt, and they have like the most number of seats. The Conservatives are now like just 120 something in Parliament. Um, and so you look at what is happening, you ask yourself, how does the US election compare? What issues are people voting on? This
yeah,
year, people are voting mainly on issues that has to do with the economy. But you know what is funny in there? All the metrics seems that the economies are doing well, yet people don't
yeah.
believe that the economy is doing well.
They can't see it in their
They
lives.
can't exactly because it's not reflecting. So
Yeah,
inflation is down in the UK, but and nobody could care what Rishi Sunak was saying. We just want you out. You know,
yeah,
inflation is down in the US, but people
yeah,
still don't care. Like they just want you out. So you just ask yourself, okay, so how are people then making their political decisions in countries where governing bodies of governing political parties have won a re-election? They
yeah,
have also done it with a coalition of another small minority party somewhere,
yeah,
which means that people don't are not looking at the big language messaging anymore. They're asking yourself,
yeah,
how are you solving issues that pertain to my life? So I looked at the Labour campaign. Keir Starmer will talk about how he would revamp the British energy sector because you are paying so much for electricity. He's going to bring a
yeah,
British road because you are paying so much um, for train transport. What
yeah,
was Kamala saying? If I ask you what Kamala's campaign about, even today, after
yeah,
everything we've digested, we can't see it. What was
yeah,
Trump saying? He was talking about immigration. He was talking
yeah,
about how he ran a better economy. And people seem
yeah.
to forget, but the fact that he said there was no major war in during my 4 year period resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was a big thing
And
for people.
and I think one mistake that people make is that liberals think that, and sometimes I find it very funny with the way like certain liberal ideologies think, or Democrats, like people on the
Yeah,
left think necessarily. They make it look like they can call out any behavior as long
yeah,
as it's not them who is doing
yeah,
that behavior. So, and but people have moved past it. So these days,
yeah.
we know the guy already. We know he is whatever you say
Mhm.
about him. But
Exactly.
all the things you are saying, you've not showed us how you are going to be different from what he is saying he's going to do.
Yeah,
So it's just like here, Labour was saying, I want to raise your income tax. I want I won't increase your national insurance contributions.
yeah,
Um, what was it said? Conservative came in and said, no, they are lying to you. They don't even have a plan to do this. They said, no, we have done this, we're going to do this. But conservative, what are you going to do? We are going to keep the economy
yeah,
stable as it is economy stable. No one wants to hear it. You know, so it was just easy to look at those things and just say, oh, I think
yeah,
Trump is going to win. Because then again, first of all, from January till the time Kamala came, he was leading the polls.
yeah.
Kamala came with a fresh energy that everybody was thinking, okay, well, we have something to look forward to. The energy was sustained to an extent. And then all of a
That is
sudden, we are not
true.
hearing, all we keep hearing is Trump is bad, Trump is bad. Like, we know, we
Yeah.
know. What are you going
I
to do
think
about
that's
the
one
fact
thing
that I
that
can't buy
killed.
groceries? Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that killed her because Trump at the latter ends of the campaign, Trump was more on the front foot in terms of positive messaging about what he wanted to do,
Hmm.
whereas Kamala was rather doing the negative messaging of he's
Exactly.
bad, he's this, he's that, and nobody's hearing what I want to do and what exactly they should expect from a Kamala administration, which was a bit difficult. And
Yeah.
for me, like even months ago, when I was in Ghana, I think in July or so, when Kamala actually took the nomination and started
Hmm.
her campaign, I did the quick video and said, I think people are underestimating Trump too much just because he messed up in his first term. And even his first term, it was the COVID period that he messed up. Prior to that, he was having a very good economy. It was mainly just his media rants and tantrums and those things that everybody had a field day with.
Hmm.
And for me, my logic was imagine Obama's first ever political experience was to become US president. Imagine Biden's first ever political experience was to become US president. We would be having extremely different conversations about them and their political tenures as first time politicians in a presidency. So you don't use his political mistakes in his first term to think that's the caliber of politician he is forever and ever. He is going to come out matured. And if you listen to him throughout the year, he was a lot more aware of issues. He was a lot
Mm-hmm.
more clear on his position on issues. You might disagree and think that his solution is radical or anti, maybe racist, anti-Islam or anti-immigrant, but it was much clearer, and everybody could appreciate his position on these issues way better than people could in the 2020 election.
Yeah.
Because in the 2020 election, he was still new to running politics. And now he's gotten 4 years to stew it and then come back stronger. And so it was like, I felt people were underestimating him for a very long time. And the way Democrats were speaking about him was still like, he'll lose. He's no one. He's just
Mm-hmm.
running to lose. So for me, it wasn't a surprise when I saw him win with that margin, because this was a person who was much more experienced coming into our election, and then was now being faced with somebody whose campaign is what, 4 months or 3 months
Yeah.
into our initial election.
Who prior
Clearly
to the campaign
was
had
not
not we've
vocal.
not seen anything
Yeah,
about that person in the administration.
yeah,
Not nothing significant, or nothing major. Because obviously with Biden in Obama's time, you could still say, okay, no, this is Biden, this is Obama.
yeah,
Even though,
yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't a surprise to everybody, like, okay, this guy is
That's
coming in. But I think that's what we do. And even with Ghanaian politics, like in the
I think the
upcoming Ghanaian
absence
election.
of a DNC convention also hurts them,
Mm,
because she didn't get the time to galvanize the base and even become popular. Because if you look at Biden, I personally didn't know a lot about Biden until he actually ran for the DNC nomination.
oh,
So
okay.
even though Biden was Obama's president, I'm not sure for a lot of people Obama has a cult around him, that
Mm-hmm.
he was him during the presidency, such that nobody will credit Biden for a lot of the things that Obama did. And it's similar. Biden beating Trump. Biden at that time had built a cult of personality around him. He had won the election by the largest margin, said he was the largest coalition president that America has seen. And Biden had created this impression that he's calm and stable and he had his influence everywhere. So even though Kamala was energetic, I'm not sure anybody credited Kamala with things that Biden and his administration were doing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're coming into the administration, you don't have an identity as a politician, and you want to run a national campaign. Like it was just so difficult to see how she was going to win.
Yeah, and I think people are generally tired with their norm, like the political rhetoric. Like people are
Yeah,
going through a lot. Like everywhere, prices are high.
yeah,
So I talk to people in Ghana, they think, oh, it's not true, but Charlie, you
yeah,
feel it. Like things are very difficult these days. So if you are coming to
yeah,
campaign to me and I can't see, I could care less about your ideologies these days than what are you doing about my day to day. And I
yeah,
think that's
yeah.
where political parties might probably need to focus. Like me, I'm looking at a Ghana perspective now, and I'm saying um, we've come a long way.
You mentioned also that Bawumia would win. First, I don't know whether
Oh,
that's because when the same day you made the prediction, you said Trump would win and Bawumia would win. End of story. And I wanted to know whether doesn't the same elements of incumbency and the tiredness and the fatigue and all those things count against the current NPP government, and
the only
whether
problem
Bawumia
is we
had a
have not
chance.
seen the same opposition as we have seen in other countries.
That's the difficulty for me too, because I'm not seeing a lot
Yeah,
from Mahama.
we've not seen the same because the campaign Keir Starmer mounted here in the UK was a
Yeah,
strong campaign. He was like, Charlie, these guys have been here 14 years. Let's boot them out already. Like this is what they've done. This is what they've done. This is what I'm going to do different. And I'm not. And I'm beginning to show you that I'm a different kind of leader. Trump ran a
yeah,
very good opposition campaign. Um, Even Jacob Zuma, when he broke away from the ANC in South Africa,
yeah,
ran a very good opposition campaign that they had to
yeah,
call him back before ANC could retain power. But I'm not seeing that same campaign with the NDC. Like I said, I do follow or listen. Then again, my only source of information these days will be news items on social media.
yeah,
The political shows I tune into, City, um, Asempa with OB sometimes, um, Peace FM's Kwame Sefakai sometimes. I'll go back and I'll watch some of the Joy News major interviews, and that's where I try to see what is going on. And I think there's not enough to suggest that it is an overwhelming or a convincing victory yet for the opposition party.
For me,
It's,
my
yeah.
difficulty is whether or not people are even see whether or not people are even looking for a convincing opposition. That's where like the gap is for me, because
Mm,
it's more like the sentiment from people is like, uh, we don't even need the opposition to convince us. And see, in the government that we are talking about, like in the US, for instance, yeah, people just actually needed Harris to convince them as to why she was a worthy choice. But it wasn't that people were overly saying, regardless of who is in opposition, we want you out, right? They just wanted to have a fair comparison, and that comparison wasn't done properly. In Ghana, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like people just don't care who it is. They just want
but
this
that's it. The thing
out.
is that people don't, you see, I think Ghanaians have gone to the point where they've become numb to some of these rhetorics. Like, it doesn't move them.
Yeah.
The 2016 campaign, I don't think it will ever happen again in a long time. You get it? So
For
we are
me,
not
that's
going
how
to,
I'm judging a political campaign. I'm like, I'm waiting for a similar political scenario where
yeah,
you see that kind of campaigning with ideas flying around with an active push against the sitting government, and it
yeah.
doesn't seem like it's happening.
I think in 2016, by this time, you knew people has had won the election. You didn't need
Yeah,
convincing. 2024, by this time, you still can't put hand on your chest and say Mahama is going to win the election. And that's because
well,
the person who's supposed to be doing what Bawumia is doing is Mahama, but Bawumia seems to be doing more of that each and every single day.
that's
So,
also,
so he's campaigning, he's telling you what he will do.
yeah,
Yes, admittedly, there's been issues and the economy. And if you realize he's not been talking about the economy. So he's not coming
no,
to tell you inflation is down because he knows you're not feeling it in your
yeah,
pocket.
yeah,
That's the difference between the campaigns that you are seeing versus the Ghana one. Because the Ghana one, whoever is around the candidate has managed to make him realize that you can't go and talk about the dollar anymore. You can't go and
yeah.
talk about the inflation
Many
anymore
minutes
because
to sleep doing it.
exactly. But at least he's coming out and he's telling you, I've seen all of that. I think I know where the problem was. We need to
Yeah,
focus our attention as a country in these sectors of our economy. Let's
yeah.
digitize this. Let's use this gold exchange for dollars. And then maybe from there, you will now be able to see stability and then move forward. That sounds to me more like somebody who is trying to position himself to lead. The alternative, which is Mahama, the campaign has really been centered on calling out the ills of Bawumia
Yeah,
and Nanado, similar to
yeah.
what Kamala and the Biden campaign were doing. We've
Oh,
not heard that much alternative. Like, what do we hear from them? 24-hour economy. It didn't really hit ground like that. Like, we never really got to
problem is
appreciate
that,
it.
yeah, till this day, people
Yeah,
really cannot tell what, and I don't know, they did a whole manifesto launch, and it's somehow still lost in translation what exactly the policy is,
yeah,
right? I mean, there've been some really top-notch policies in terms of making a hit, but all of them had been like temporal hits. So for instance, the youth policy about giving all first year students in uni um, access to the university and paying the academic
yeah.
fees. When it was becoming, is it a student loan, is it academic fees, and then that policy just shipped off. Recently, it's been about including private schools into free
It's the free
schema,
SHS. Yeah,
free SHS policy. And there've been several different policies that have come around. My own is they don't seem to create a political identity for him in the
yeah.
election.
The only way I see them winning is if MPP fails to activate their base to vote for them in their strongholds. Because it's
Okay.
evidently clear that MPP is not going to win in Accra.
Yeah.
So MPP should focus on where they have their numbers and just put people out to vote. Because at the end of the day, if you speak to people, you would realize that. And I was in Ghana in May as well.
Yeah.
And whenever you speak to someone, they go like, "Yeah, the government is not really functioning the way I want it. Will you vote for the NDC?" I see the Mahama coming back, no skepticism, and then
So
you go and be like,
there's no certainty.
it's not, yeah, and then you go and be like, oh, but so why would you? Was like, yeah, I might not vote. Then when I speak to my friends in the NDC, which I have a lot
Yeah.
of friends in the NDC, they go like, oh, those are MP people who are just tired of their own administration. But you see, regardless, we should look at the difference in the votes over time. It's
Yeah.
as much as a place in time conversation as a historical conversation.
Yeah.
How much vote have these guys beaten you with over the years? It will be such a terrible campaign from them, so terrible that that 500,000 margin they had
Yeah.
will not, like, maybe they will lose all that 500,000 not to vote in 2024. I don't think that will
Yeah.
happen. Besides, there's also a whole conversation around the cohort of free SHS students
Yeah.
who, now I don't know the millions they quote. Even if 200,000
Amankwah
of these, yeah, if around like 200,000 of these guys actively with their families are voting for you,
Yeah.
the mathematics will show you that there are still a whole block of voters who are most likely to still come out for the NPP, regardless of what they. And also
Yeah.
saying that the economy can no longer be a subject, because if you make the economy a subject and say you are doing well, you're doing well, you're not doing well, people are like, I don't feel it in my pocket. And all over the
Yeah.
world, elections where people are running based on the economy, we've done well with the economy. They've not won. They've won it on what I'm going to do to change your life. And so far,
Yeah.
I'm not hearing that from the NDC. I'm only hearing that from the NPP. He's talking about credit scoring. He's talking about digitizing more of government, making government more efficient. He's talking about introducing this, introducing that, upstreaming this. He's doing something. If you give
Yeah.
somebody the choice to choose, unless the people are so upset and choked with anger to the extent that,
I
and
mean,
maybe that's what the NDC is
that's my
relying on.
assessment. Yeah, that's my assessment that if it might get if NDC is going if NPP is going to lose, that's the premise on which people are going to, and the inability to really gauge that is what make it difficult for me to call the election, because I'm like, I can't really tell the degree to which people are
So
actually
upset.
angry with the government.
I think people
Yeah.
people are definitely disappointed in some aspects of the government. Not all of it. I'm
Yeah.
not disappointed all around with the government because there's been positives, right?
Yeah.
You can look at what they've done with year of return alone. Like these days, if you
Yeah.
travel with someone from here into Ghana, it's easier. Back then, we have to
Yeah.
carry cash and come and convert and all of that. These days, I don't need to carry any cash. I can just
Yeah.
pay anywhere I want. That's progress. That's progress. Maybe somebody in some village somewhere might not appreciate, or even
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
in Accra might not appreciate. But there's also a voter out there who appreciates
Who
that
appreciates
form
that?
of progress, who counts it as
Yeah.
economic progress. And I feel like the NDC is probably thinking that, oh, because this guy has been so terrible, they said they'll do this, they haven't, and they do this, people will be angry and not vote for them. The same way Kamala thought, because Trump was so terrible and he called this a
Yeah.
shithole and all that. But look at the black population, and even the numbers is not significant, but
But
historically, he managed to get quite a good number of black people voting for him.
I mean, final question on this. People would also say that the recency bias doesn't count for Trump, but it counts for Bawumia, because Trump had been out of office for 4 years.
Mm.
Uh, and people can wonder, yeah, even if then Trump was in office, it wouldn't have been bad as this. And that ability to wonder is there for them. But that ability to wonder is not there for Bawumia. They can't say, yeah, he's not been in office for the last 4 years. He has. And so the recency anger will probably go more for him than that was for Trump. And so maybe the anger tactics to incite people against Trump would be ineffective because it's 4 years ago and they are more angry about their current conditions with you. But the anger tactics to incite people against Bawumia is much more linear. They are more angry, you are still in power, and it's directed at you.
I think the difference here too is the MPP campaign in 2016 was so well executed that people don't see Mahama the same way as Mahama in 2012. No, I mean, let's be honest. Like the way MPP attacked the 2016 campaign head on so much
Yeah.
that it made Ghanaians look like Mahama could not run the country. Like he didn't have what it took to run, like what it takes to
At
run.
some point, genuinely, I think it was unfair.
No, but I'm saying, but yes, it was. They really
Yeah,
attacked him. Like it
yeah.
was. Everybody saw it, and I think those things still linger. And you see, people will still say, "Eh, cry time, doom so miho."
Well,
You see, those things they have not gone anywhere. Oh. It's the same
yeah,
reason why somebody will tell you, "Minyan kame tu na so Mahama nti."
yeah.
I don't know if the NDC has seen that or they've managed to like whip up support, but the Mahama brand is not as strong as it was in 2012.
For me,
The
I
Trump
felt it
brand,
was a mistake to bring him
yeah,
back. Not because I don't like the NDC. My family, like you see, there are some people's family where it's a uniform party
Oh, but some of my
affiliation.
very close friends are like, and
Yeah,
which
yeah,
like very strong
yeah,
NDC
yeah,
members.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
My family, the reason why I don't have any strong political affiliations, my family, they are split down the middle. In that same
mm,
family conversation, someone is supporting MPP, someone is vehemently bashing them. So you don't get exposed to one-sided information that makes you think this party is great and this party is not. You tend to have sympathies and dislikes on both sides.
yeah.
Which is more like I just felt bringing back Mahama for 2020 was wrong because in
Mm,
my view that was the year you knew you were going to lose, most likely. But that was the year to build up a candidate.
for
And so
2024.
for 2024, because that candidate was eventually going to face off against whoever the MPP were going to bring, whether it was Bawumia or Alan or whoever. And
Mm,
that candidate, I felt, would have been much more politically mature to win the 2024 election.
yeah,
But then
certainly.
now it's still Mahama, and it's like it just made the whole dynamics a lot more difficult. And Mahama hasn't been as forceful as Trump has been, right?
Yeah.
So it's like so difficult for me to even weigh in on exactly what impact they are having on the campaigns.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to always also look at where people are coming from and why people vote. People
Yeah,
vote for all manner of reasons. There's somebody in Ashanti region who's going to vote for Bawumia because finally he sees that his party is not identified as a non-account anymore.
yeah,
But there's somebody who is also going to vote because he feels like yes, Mahama should still come back because he's not finished his business.
yeah, yeah,
But there's
yeah,
still the guy who is also going to vote because they feel like, but for this policy of free teachers, I wouldn't have been able to educate my entire family. You
yeah,
know, that free teacher student is also saying that, but for this party, I wouldn't have been able to go to school.
yeah,
But then someone too is there somewhere thinking, like I just told you, oh, I can now take my white friends from here to Ghana and then we can pay everything via Visa book online. I might as well
yeah,
vote for this guy. At least the
yeah,
power was there. At least so the ideas are plenty. It's how you get the people to see what you have done
yeah,
versus what the other person is saying. And I'm saying that my observation is I think the NPP candidate has managed to put out more of what he intends to do
yeah,
quickly try to deassociate himself from what the government has already, even though it's been very difficult. But
yeah,
now you think of Baumia's campaign and you don't really think of Nanado's administration. It's gradually looking
yeah,
like a trend on its own, separate from
yeah,
the 8-year government that we've seen.
yeah,
He's been visiting every constituency. He's been inviting people. He's been taking questions from the media. He's been
yeah,
addressing questions from different people, different industries. He's doing something to show that I have heard you and I'm engaging. Without winning the election, I think to an extent it will give him an edge over
okay,
Mahama. Why would
okay,
Mahama win? It's only because, like I told you, MPP will not be able to get their base to vote, and
vote,
unless, like you said, I've not been able to gauge the level of resentment and anger boiled down within people so much to kick these people
yeah,
out, and maybe even that is an overstated reaction because hey, it's social
yeah,
media. We need
yeah,
to,
that's also there.
yeah, and people just want to trend. So you have to always play. And I mean, if Baumia wins, maybe I should quit my career in finance and start start doing these things because I just think, yeah, I'm able to maybe see where something is going. It's okay. I think this could
Yeah.
work. I mean, I could get it wrong. I mean, I got success selection wrong, but yeah,
Interesting. This has really been a long and interesting conversation.
yeah, longer than
And the
expected
funny thing
actually.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, way longer. But the funny thing is, it never got boring as well.
Mhm.
It was from one interesting section to another. So it's really been nice. I have two last cards for you. So
Yeah.
let's get it done with. The first one is, what is the crazy big idea you would try if you could not fail?
Hmm. I've always thought of like ways where we could. So when then again, I like to always think that I'm there for people when I can,
Yeah.
or I like to listen, or I like to have conversations.
Okay.
One of the biggest ideas I had was to have like maybe I don't know if I should put this out there. Someone will steal it and develop it. But if we could reach people and talk to them
Yeah.
without having to necessarily go through a bureaucracy of assessing therapy or something, but being able to, because I know
Oh,
people are hurting so much, like people are going through a lot. But and these days, I can't guarantee that I'll sit down and listen to you. But was there a way where you could have a conversation with people anytime you wanted? Access
okay.
through technology. Maybe it's an app, maybe it's something for free that you can go and then you can have it. But that would require a lot of. I don't even know if that's going to be real because it requires some sort of human I don't know if an AI
Yeah.
will ever get there, but that's like one of those ideas that you can never
Yeah.
materialize, right? But if I could, I had a power, like, can we get people to sort of talk through things with some people just want to talk? Can we just
Yeah.
talk through things and then see if we're able to get somewhere? Or like somebody's really hurting, but they don't know who to approach.
Yeah.
Is there a way to reach those people? Are there things they can access to help them with like mental health and all of that?
Interesting. Wow. The final card says, I was wondering what you believe happiness is and how can it be achieved?
Hmm. I mean, I like to think I'm a realist though, but yeah, I think happiness is it's not. So I have a mentor, and then he said he quoted something from Henry Kissinger. I don't even know if Kissinger's because I've never bothered to go and search for the quote, but it made sense. He said it's terrible when you don't have goals, but it's
Yeah.
even worse when you achieve your goals. That
Wow.
that is to say, happiness
Okay.
is a facade. Like at every point, there's
Yeah.
something else that is calling your attention to become happy. So
Yeah.
today might be graduating from school. Tomorrow is finding a job.
Yeah.
For some people, it's
Yeah.
getting married and building a family. For example, seeing your kids
Yeah.
graduate is you getting promotion, you starting the business. So
Yeah.
I think for me, happiness is waking up every day and knowing that I can still think and I can still make an impact. But I never place it
Yeah.
in moments. I never place it in people because it's so transient that you can lose your loved one at any given point without like calculating. You can like I don't take life too seriously, but I take life too seriously too sometimes. Yeah, not to hold on to things so much, like not to hold on to
Yeah.
grudges, like like just let it go.
Yeah.
Just be freer in the way you interact with people because you never know like how things will turn out for you. So yeah, I guess that's where. So it's very difficult for me to answer that question honestly because I think our brains will always trick us to think there's a happier moment somewhere we have not
Yeah.
gotten to yet. Yeah.
Wow. Phew. This has been a nice one and a really long one. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah, I hope it's not
Um,
boring for listeners because I'll never listen to a 2 hour podcast.
so what we'll do is we'll split it into two parts. We'll
Mm,
probably do like a 1 hour 10 minutes or 1 hour 20 minutes for part one, and then we'll later on release the second part so people can listen without feeling like it's never ending. But it's a really, really nice conversation, and it's been wonderful having you on the
yeah.
podcast as well.
I
Uh,
mean, thank you very much
so this
for
has
for having me. Yeah, before you end, I think
yeah,
it's um I've seen how when you started this podcast with Erasmus and yeah,
yeah,
it's still going on. I think I haven't seen him in a while though. Last time I saw him was I think a year ago, but also
yeah, he's around.
yeah, I don't know
I
what.
actually recorded an episode with him like 10 minutes before we started
Oh,
ours.
okay. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and he was also recording one with someone else while we were
Probably this
recording
one with
ours.
me. Oh, I see. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's. I mean, I know we're in the same country, but not in the same city. So
yeah.
sometimes
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we are not able to connect as much as we should. But yeah, I admire you guys from like a distance. And like I said, I've been watching your status all over. I might not comment much because I don't text people much these days. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see
yeah,
what you
yeah,
do. You are doing well. Keep it up. Always remember how you started. I think it will. It's amazing. People look up to you, and then also I wish you all the best in your love life. Yeah, because
yeah. Kelly, you had to do this. I thought you were ending this conversation without anything about anything about anyone's love life.
oh, it's good. It's good. If it's a person I know, I met her at Worlds, and yeah, it's good.
Who asked you, Kelly? Now, right now, somebody will go and listen to the podcast and start asking in comment section, who are they talking
Oh,
about?
there's so many people at Worlds
But
from India, China, all over the place. So all the best. All right.
but yeah, thanks so much. This has been a one-on-one conversation with Kelly Smith Amankwah. Kelly is obviously, like I said, the former president of the KNUST Debate Society. And as you can see, KDS president Shelley, in some it mikasa and kanjaida. And it's been a really wonderful conversation to catch up with you on the podcast. So thanks everyone for listening. Let us know your thoughts, and put comments and question Kelly why he brought someone's love life onto a podcast. I'll definitely screenshot and send it to him. Uh, Leave your comments, your thoughts, subscribe, and see you on the next one.